Hey guys, Taki here. This is a huge day for Steam Deck customization. If you like transparent shells like I do, we now have a lot of options available to us to customize a Steam Deck. A little while ago, I took a look at this clear shell mod, and while it is decent, there are far better colors that they could have went with instead of this one. Full disclosure, this is not a sponsored video from this company, and at the time that I'm making this video, there's not an affiliate link down in the description box below. If you end up seeing this in the future as an ad, I did not make it into an ad, so just be aware of that. I have every single one of these cases and I don't need them all. I am planning on doing a giveaway, but you're gonna have to stay tuned later in this video because it's not as straightforward as it probably would have been if I didn't make that last video. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. So just to get started, I applied this retro skin in my last video, but we have to take off these palm rests to be able to get off the back shell. As I mentioned, this back shell is nice and it's cool that it has the branding, but this is not my favorite color, and they now have a ton of great color options that you are going to be able to see in just a moment. I installed this skin on my 3D printed deck just to test it out before I did so on my real deck, and I found out that this one doesn't have any screw holes in the back, so I didn't apply the skin to the back of this, but also this is a clear shell and I want to be able to look at it, so applying a skin to the back doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I'm going to try to take off this palm rest without damaging it too much. I don't know if I'm going to apply it again. Like, it is nice, but it's kind of annoying to have to deal with this. I'm just gonna stick this back on the wax paper to protect it. All right, so now our deck is ready. As you'll see, I left the stickers on after my initial review of this clear shell, just so I could know which buttons were the best ones. I've since used this deck about 100 or 200 hours. I do have two of these, but this is the one that I use to play Steam games with. The other Steam Deck that I own, I just use for emulation. I think more than anything else, like, these buttons are the standout feature of this if you don't really care about the transparent nature of this case. Now that we have those armrests apart, I'm gonna put this off to the side really quick, and we're going to look at what's inside the packages of these cases, and I'm also going to show off all of the colors with one exception. So here's the new box, and as you can see, there are 6 colors available. One of the colors is already installed on this deck, and then we have 5 other new ones. I have all 5 of these, but for kind of like a stupid reason, I'm not allowed to show the clear shell one on camera, but I will still give you my opinions on it at the end of this video, just so that way you can know which ones I think are the best out of this collection. So as you can see, this one is marked as the purple color, and this is the one that I think I'm going to install on my Steam Deck because I like atomic purple, but one of these other colors might surprise me. So inside the box we have our tools, buttons, and a screwdriver, and we also have the shell itself. And I'm going to place it on this white background just so you can get a really good idea of the color tone and the saturation of each shell. So there we go with the atomic purple shell. This one is a bit lighter. I think the hue is not exactly where it should be for like a real atomic purple, but this is not something that like a lot of people get right when they're making these shells. As you can see, like, this one over here is from Retro Flag, and it's like a completely different tone than this one, but I think if you just want a purple shell, like, this one looks pretty sleek. Now, there are some changes to this versus the one that I already had. This metal plate here has been changed to a darker color, and I think it really matches the shell a lot better than the silver one does and the one that I already have installed. So we'll try to get every single one on screen right now just to make it easier to compare. Here's blue, or clear blue. Here's green, and here is red. Again, for a dumb reason, I'm not allowed to show the last color, which is clear, but I do have a device that kind of simulates what it's like. This Game Boy Pocket that I have here is a very close representation of what that clear shell is like, except the Steam Deck shell is a bit more frosted on the inside than this one is, but it's pretty close to what you're gonna get. Obviously, I have a bunch of crystal shells on this table, and I think the best part about a clear shell is you can paint the inside to customize the color however you want, but like, these 4 colors here are pretty awesome. This is kind of like just some added information from manufacturing that I know of. When you're going to customize shells like this, where there are so many colors, and there are a lot of colors for this shell, the molding manufacturer is going to come in and place a really high MOQ on each individual color to make it worth their time to inject each shell separately. So what that essentially looks like is a manufacturer might come to you and say, like, we'll make this red shell, but we'll only make 5,000 at a time. Like, if you don't want to buy 5,000, then we're not going to do that color. When you're dealing with a product like the Steam Deck, where you could probably cover a 5,000 MOQ for each individual color, that's not a problem. If you're a company that can't fill like so many MOQs of different colors, you could inject one color, and that will typically be a clear shell variant, and then you can use a separate company to paint those shells into the other colors that you need. I'm not really a fan of this for a variety of reasons, but it doesn't seem to be like that was done in this case. Like this thing seems to be injected all the way through for the color that it's represented. And that's good because that means it's not going to scratch off or it's not going to wear off over time. And it also doesn't use unnecessary paints to achieve the same effect. But what we'll do right now is remove the back shell on my Steam Deck, and then I'm just going to place each one over the Steam Deck so you can get an idea of how it looks with the shell attached. So inside our toolkit, we have a different set of buttons. These ones don't have the sticker on them, but I'm just going to match them up to the ones that I already have if I do end up wanting to do a complete switch out on the deck that I have. Also in our toolkit, we have a screwdriver, a pry tool, and silly finger sleeves. The only thing I need though is the screwdriver. So while I'm taking this apart, this is a good time to talk about my original idea for giving away these extra shells since I don't want them. Usually when I'm going to make a video like this, where the video itself is not sponsored and there are no affiliate links tied to the product, I'll try to go to the company and ask them if they can provide some kind of discount codes or free codes that I can give away to people, since they are basically saving like a ton of money by not having to give money to me when they sell a unit based off of my video coverage. I went to this company and asked them if I could get free codes to give away to subscribers or people that are watching this video, and they said yes, but they had like a weird stipulation. It couldn't be on the day that I was making the video. For some reason, it would have to be on the 20th, but whatever, they said that that was cool with them. They're not losing any money on affiliate sales, so it kind of stands to reason that they should be able to provide this kind of benefit to the viewers of this video. But I'm not sure if they're going to honor that after the last video that I made. What I'm going to do is pick people out of the comments that are subscribed to the channel and have their subscription status set to public to win those codes or free units. If the company decides to not give me the codes, then what I'll do is just give away the extra shells myself, and I'll pay for the shipping costs and everything myself. But I'm hoping that they still provide the codes. So if you're interested in that, you do have to just make sure that your subscription status is set to public, at least until like the 21st, I would assume. After that, you can go back to changing it to private, but that's the only way that as a creator, I can see that you are subscribed to the channel. You'll get a little icon next to your name that will tell me that you are a subscriber, and it will also list like how long you've been subscribed, but the length of your subscription doesn't really matter for this giveaway. But yeah, we've got all the screws out, so now we're going to use the pry tool to get out the shell itself. So what I did is just start over here on the top, and then I went around the corner with this pry tool, and now I've got half of this off, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I just want to mention this because a lot of people are very concerned about this. If you do have an SD card, do not try to do this with an SD card inserted. This deck never uses an SD card, so I don't need to worry about that, but I do just want to just mention that so you don't end up breaking like a highly valuable SD card that you have inserted into your deck. All right, so we've got the back shell off, and now let's start looking at what this looks like with each shell color on, except for the clear shell one. The first one that I was the most excited about is this atomic purple shell. And I have to say, that looks pretty awesome. You wouldn't expect that that would look so good because, like, again, this doesn't look that decent on a white background, but like right when you put that onto the shell, that is sleek. Let me get some beauty shots of this so you can really see it in all its glory. This one is using the stock buttons, but yeah, it looks really sleek. I also like that that pad has been changed to black. It doesn't really match the front of my Steam Deck, but we can change that by just taking off the sticker or applying a different one. So far, I am a fan of this color. This thing looks really nice, very premium. So that's the purple shell. Let's go with the green one. Just like quickly before we put this on, like this is a really nice shade of green. The interesting thing about this is on that purple shell that I had, those buttons were already assembled by default, and on all of the other shells, like they're not, so that's kind of strange, but this is another really nice color. Like this definitely gives me Funtastic N64 vibes. Our next color is red, and we'll just install that one. Kind of unsure of how I feel about this one. This one doesn't look as good as the other colors do. It definitely doesn't match the skin that I have, but that's like another problem entirely. I have another product that's almost this exact same color. This was based off of the Watermelon N64, and I think it looks a little better with white buttons than it does with black accents, but that's really just a personal preference. This thing kind of just looks a little dark in my opinion. And our last color is clear blue. Blue happens to be my favorite color, and I think they went with a really nice shade of blue for this clear shell. This might be the one that I go with after making this video, but I'm not sure yet. I'm going to try out the purple one since that was the original one that I thought that I would like the most. We have some work to do before we can install this. The first thing I need to do is take off the buttons that were pre-assembled out of the box, and then I'm going to put in the ones that I really want to use. This is pretty easy. We just have 4 screws on the side that we need to take out. The good thing about this case is that they injected it with brass inserts in the screw holes for these buttons, so you can change these out as many times as you want and it shouldn't have any impact on the shell itself. That's something that not a lot of manufacturers do since it adds cost, but it's a really good thing for end users. Alright, we've got everything set up and it's ready to install back onto my Steam Deck, but there are some things that I want to mention first. The Steam Deck has an interesting cooling system that's not the best in the world, but the idea is that it's pulling in air from here and then all of that air cools off all of the components on its way out through the top. This thermal pad should obstruct a lot of that airflow that would otherwise be cooling the top of the processor heat shield. In day-to-day use, it doesn't make that big of a deal, but it should be cutting down on the efficiency of the cooling system. Another thing that you need to be aware of is thermal pads kind of lose their efficiency the thicker that they are because they retain thermal energy instead of releasing it, and this one is kind of a chunky one. It's the biggest thermal pad that I've seen used in any kind of gaming handheld by far. It probably is holding in a lot of that heat and storing it instead of releasing it. The other thing that you need to know is even if you attach a thermal cooler to this area, it doesn't really do that much. It probably only lowers temperatures by about a Celsius or so it's not really worth attaching anything to this metal plate. There's one thing that I talked about in my last review that I want to see if we can fix now. When I was installing the other shell, it wouldn't close completely in this area right here where there are 2 clips, and I want to see if it does close if I remove that thermal pad. Now that I have more than one of these, I'm going to remove that pad on my other shell and see if the entire thing closes flush without using screws. What we're going to do now is just remove this. I'm not really worried about damaging it because I won't use this clear shell again. And just to give you a better idea, this is a very thick thermal pad. Usually these are about 1/4 of this size when they're used in other handhelds. And there's the bare metal plate. So let's just install this over the shell and see if it does fit into place. And it probably won't come as any surprise to you, but it does close without the use of screws in this spot. So that thermal pad is definitely a lot bigger than it should be. Now that I know this and I have a lot of experience using this with the thermal pad, I'm actually thinking about removing the thermal pad on the shell that I will keep using. Obviously, I'm not going to have hundreds of hours of use with this by the time I upload this video, but what I can do is update the pinned comment with any of my future feedback if I do find out that removing the thermal pad is better than keeping it there. I'm not going to screw this in just yet because I still need to do a few other things, but what I do want to talk about is the overall appearance of this. I think most people getting this are going to have a stock Steam Deck and they won't have a vinyl sticker installed in the front. So what I'm going to do now is just take off everything that I have here and then get some general impressions of how this purple one looks like on a blank Steam Deck. All right, I've gone ahead and removed the stickers and I think this definitely looks way better with the stock experience. Obviously this mod is not perfect because we really would want a front clear shell, but that doesn't seem to be an option. An interesting thing that I want to point out is there was a company that was planning on doing a complete mod of the front and back shell with a new screen, but that seems to be on the back burner at this time. The idea being that while a clear front shell is possible, it would require you to remove the stock screen, and that can be very difficult without special tools. So this company could do a front and back shell with a screen attached, and while they're already there, they can use a better screen than the one that is inside this Steam Deck. I was pretty pumped about this, but I haven't heard anything about that in a long time. But for what we get for the price, this is not a bad mod by any stretch of the imagination. I do just wish we did have a front shell. All right, what I want to do now is just put these in order from best to worst based on my opinion of how the aesthetics work with the stock Steam Deck. In first place, I have the blue one, and I haven't fully closed it just to make it easier to do this, but I think this color works the best with the black shell. It looks really nice, it's not too flashy, it's a nice little accent, and it looks pretty cool. In second place, I have the red shell. This one also looks really nice with the black shell. It gives me kind of like a Sith vibe going on, and it looks awesome with a stock Steam Deck. In third place, we have the clear shell, and this is blurred out because, again, I'm not allowed to film it, but I did want to rank it. This one is a really nice color option that just works with the stock shell, and it's a great one to pick up. In fourth place, we have a green shell. This is another good one to go with. And if green is your favorite color, this could probably be your top position. I just wish this was a bit more saturated than it is. This one kind of surprised me because I expected to like this one the best, but in fifth place, we have the purple shell. I don't think this one looks that great with the black shell. This is something that you'd really want to see with a completely transparent device, so it doesn't work as well, in my opinion, as the other ones. And in dead last position, we have the brown one. I don't think that there's any reason to go with this over the other options now that they exist. This one is by far the worst one that's available. I just want to wrap up this video with some of my closing thoughts. I tested this out with the same game that I did last time for about an hour or so, and I'm not really noticing any big difference when it comes to thermals. The fan is still at the same RPM that it was with the thermal pad there. Using the thermal pad, like, I would not be able to keep my thumb here that long before it would just burn it, but now it's pretty much exactly how it feels with a normal Steam Deck back shell. Outside of that, the only other thing that I'm noticing on this blue shell is the fact that this edge here on the back is sticking out a little, so it kind of scratches against your finger. You'd have to push this in and get it to hold into that place so that way it doesn't cause you any issues. It wasn't an issue on the other one that I installed, but this one is kind of jetting out a little more than it should. But yeah, that's going to be it on these new cases. I think this is a pretty cool DIY mod, and it's really cheap to do. It's very easy to do. Like, even my 3-year-old can do most of this install by himself. So if you're worried about doing something like this because you don't think that you can do it, there are not many mods that are easier to do than this one. If you want to buy one of these, there is a non-affiliated link down in the description box below. If this changes in the future, I'll make sure to put an annotation on the link so that way you know if you buy it, I will make money. If you buy this right now, I will not. If you have any other questions about this that I can answer, you can leave those down below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Happy gaming, everyone. Taki out.